Hello, I'm Steve Slamenda for the Silverton Poetry Association, here with my SPA colleagues at the invitation of Tom Hogan and the Milwaukie Poetry Series. We're going to be sharing some of our poetry this evening. Thank you for the invitation, Tom and the Milwaukie Poetry Series. We're happy to be here virtually. No, we're happy to be here. We're happy to be here virtually, but we're not virtually happy. We're actually happy. Happy to be here. We're going to read our poems in two rounds. The readers are Larry Anderson, Franca Hernandez, myself, Steve Slamenda, Kelly Morehouse, Rose Hope, Juan Cervantes, and Efrain Diaz Horna. And we'll be reading in that order. So we're going to begin with my friend Larry Anderson, who's going to read a poem or two as soon as he unmutes himself. Larry, you're on.
Okay, thanks, Steve. The first poem is called COVID. It was easy to know that nothing in the neighborhood moved. As I walked down the sidewalk, I could see it devouring accompanying streets, telephone poles, beehives, and an unused pasture. Kids' toys and bikes succumbed. I recognized the vague outlines of a city park, my home, a few parked cars. There were some things of little impact, little value. I was on our moon and was the only thing that moved. Boulders from another time were scattered on the surface where they had crashed into inertia, blasting, cratering the status quo. I kicked the ground, but the moon didn't move. Gray dust flew from the impact and settled into an almost identical moon. There would be no going back. Maybe if I had a tantrum, things might change. That's not very uplifting. So this one's a little lighter. Okay, this one's called Tickling the Ivories. I'm now back then, transported by elevator music. The mood has power, wants to tell me that distant scene is now what I see where I am. Does anyone sit next to me, hold me now or then? Tell me how it was, how it is. Old sounds come from clinking ivory, charging my sense of then. Wasn't it great? Well, now it seems great, up so close I sit in it. Today, a shiny rock, a beetle squirming in the sun. Then now focused strongly, it must be true. I start my car and hurry down the driveway, hoping to find the other time to answer the question, am I an old song? Okay, I'm done.
Thank you, Larry. See you for the second round.
Okay.
Our next reader is Franca.
I would like to do a screen share, if I may. Larry, excuse me, Steve, I'm going to screen share and you need to give me permission. Your mute is on.
I think you should be able to share now. I've never done this before, but we'll see.
Very good. So this poem was inspired by a book I read that Bill Sullivan wrote, The Ship in the Hill, and it is about the Oseberg ship in Oslo, Norway. So it was on my bucket list to go visit. And it is a burial ship that was buried in 834, and there are two women that are on the ship. And it's noted because it has these fabulous grave goods on it that still to this day we're trying to figure out where they came from and why these two women had this very rich grave goods. So I developed my own story, and I call it the Cirrus in the Oseberg burial ship. I've also used a Norse meter, and it's called 4 Slag, and it's a type of meter for epic stories. Over 1,000 years she yearned for sun in slumber deep and dark on soft bed. Next to brave friend, fierce and ever true, most tender comrade, wise confidant. Whither she voyaged upon vast sea, sheltered she was within her care. Tale of woeful tragedy and harm, her youth most foul, fortune brought pain, as panic horse, hurled her in air, active body thrown, broken, fell, forever lame, reduced to limp, raging at misery, her misfortune. To wed no longer could weak lover, most wretched path rends them asunder. Afar to voyage and she to slave, ate bitter weeds with cattle kept, keening awful fate, faith in rags, Ragnarok of time, tear stones fell. Years lap, pain muted, plying distaff, thoughts by the hearth to hear runic songs, sparkling visions leap from deep load, depart present mind, meander the ether to etch on cosmic soul cascade of mind, meanders long by leagues distant stars. Ayuna, bringer of boundless youth, spouse of Bragi, the god skald, gifted holy skills, seer magic, ancient sight evokes eternal flame, of shaman lore, lifted visions, veiled no more, mind revealed. The weight of fame, far and wide in trance, temples of words, weighted by visions, her vibrant cunning, the call of life, for lord and crofter, deep, trilled chants. Regal treasure gold, granted Cirrus, great fame on sea and afar abound. Slay of oak, Slay of oak, she rode to ovations, rich deep carvings the cart's flank, forms of serpents, symbols, Freya's cats, drawn by callow horse over hoary frost, far she traversed turf and heather, heath in comfort in cradled cushion. On the foam of the fathomless sea slithers her brave bark of forest made, 15 pairs of oars, poles set for sails. Prow to stern carved dragons clasp and writhe, woven tail through tail each beast, wolfed by the trailing tangled brutes toward. Far her fate steered to dispense wisdom. Far her fate steered to dispense wisdom. Her resolved sage words strove wars to quell, quickened accord amongst men of storm. O fleeting season, their flawed pledge gave, prayers and charms careen into somber greed, and greed into graves, deaf to foresight. Weary old bones, winter's lapse on farm, lament chance mouth crushed limp flower. Fair holy Ayuna, hallow gift of apples, bestow blessings on her. Brave heart embarks eastward on spring tide to travel primal sea path Simbric, reached Hidaby port, Danish realm. Riches of silk, amber, noble slaves, of nations and landlocked seas, came one, watchful onyx eyes, ever wary, wise and shrewd, of distant regal stock, stores of treasure trade for Eastern girl. Pontus, murky sea, site of girl's birth, long buried in mind, a memory, Of bear setting wild steeds roam free, rebel warrior, then wife, captive, carefree no more, mad grief eyes forward, fragile Cirrus speaks gentle future. On Oslo fjord friendship bonds grew strong, her grateful commune, core of hope, held the Cirrus and the slave with pride. Whither they ventured the visions fused, weak of frame, constant courage sated, from strange girl's vigor, pain was vanquished. Longboats seek wealth, wage of violence, venturing on rivers and rough seas, swept empires at earth's tree, Yggdrasil. Years pass, disease damages her flesh, sly fingers carve cunning runes on stick. Mouth silent she wrote, man lacks wisdom. Spring of her death, dirge of hearts bled. Comrades brought her grave goods all summer. Sleek burial ship, her final bed. Bounty of craftsmen constructed haven. Half-timbered tent, hung precious textiles. Practical household hardware buried. Black day's companion wept bitter tears. Weak, broken heart burst inside her chest. Charm dissolved, no destiny to share. She adorned herself in amber gems, on her friend garland gilded brooch, breath exhale, last tender kiss, embrace. Two deceased draped in lavish vestments, leather boots bound with skin and fleece, silk woven wardrobes, prize dyes, vibrant, vivid, madder red, kermes crimson, ornate skilled carved saga dragon heads, slain horses, hounds, milk cows, feline rare. Autumn chants, tears, feasting, farewells, tunes on harps sweetly rose heavenward. Rich gifts from domain, woeful and weeping, while digging into the massive mount, with earth mounds to cover burial ship, in blue peat, Cirrus and slave preserved. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Franca. That was an epic. That was amazing and beautiful. Thank you. I'm next with a couple of poems. The first one begins with an epigraph from Emily Dickinson, which is, "Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul." What a time to be touchless, hugless, in a time when sighs are muffled, grins and grimaces equally hidden, in a time when the glut of news is clouded in a confusion of voices outcrying each other, a time of hand-wringing and hand-washing, hate and fear filtered through the heart's ventilation. And frames within frames, through screened intimacies, we watch a loved one dying on the other side of a window. In a time when some of us have given up baseball, while others have had to give up loved ones. Time when everyone wants just to breathe freely, to feel again the warm exchange of our breaths. How good it is now to long for each other, to long for that moment of a bird song at the end of a long rain. And a second poem on aging. Take aging slowly to an hour of magic light, as day takes dawn's kiss to color the coming of night. Age with the pace and presence of old trees through 4 seasons. Age as the candle's brightening wick descends to consume itself completely. Age like settling into the 3rd act of a play or final season of a series you've been binging. Age as space defined by how it hinges into time, or a slow distilling spirit of a body of well-aged wine. And if with the love of your life age takes you in its grace, Embrace the ember glow that warms in the wake of the flame. Thank you. That's 2 from me.
I believe I'm next, right? Okay, I have 2 poems. I'm just reading one right now, but I'll read the other one later. But I wrote them both during this hard times we're in before the fire. and so the first one's called A Nod to Death. And you'll soon see what it's about. Okay. This thing about dying never has really set well with me. It just doesn't seem thought out. Even if there's no space for us on the planet, there is plenty of room for modern conjectures. I mean, death is a fact. How we meet it, yet another thing. Even if the body were finished, what about the rest? We are creatures made of fertile minds, so why the garden dry of possibilities? Why the ivy strangling us from speaking? There's the theory of nothing. The lights go out, that's it. I want an open door with a yellow light, drawing me through, connecting me to the link beyond our knowing. Could it be my dampened soul, too long enclosed in the cave of my body, is set free, head south to bask in the sun on a high plateau? I've heard natives say, today is a good time to die. It sounds like they may be ready. My own myth needs some shine so I can settle better in my chair, breathe deeper. If the door is close, I have the last pose of my yoga class to try out, the corpse pose. I lie down, breathe slow and deep, inhale, exhale, clear my mind of clutter. It takes some time to find a place of peace till I loosen my grip, let go. I see why it's a good way to die, though I see I need more practice. But no, absolutely not. I will not trade my last few days fighting the fight with death, nor in my final hour start the fatal gasping in a struggle with my fears. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Next, we have Rose.
Okay. Biological to digital. If life may imitate art, may a metaphor imitate a microorganism? The viruses, real and metaphoric, are both invisible without using tools, attack humans, replicate in a host, spread rapidly, cause upheaval, even death and destruction, need monitoring, require protective measures, may involve a mouse, and cause zooming. Virulent, the Latin for poisonous, preceded finding the tobacco mosaic virus in 1898, the first of 6,000 viruses, most recently COVID-19. Virus evolved into a metaphor of computer malevolence in 1986, now numbering over 100,000. Going viral is up to 5 million hits in 7 days. Spreading the virus for COVID-19 reached 32 million in 8 months. Now, what goes viral digitally often concerns viruses biological. This apt metaphor begs for its own category. Or follow the advice of Joseph Campbell: to change the world, change the metaphor.
Thank you, Rose. And next up, we have Juan. And I think, Juan, you're going to read in both English and Spanish.
Yes.
Okay, go for it.
The nurse Nancy, with her ardent weaponry, through a corridor she goes, through another comes, swiftly with her art of bold signs, distinguished warrior of flanks and fronts. Brave as Diana, she subdues the virus, never retreats, if weary even from far, gives orders. Companions heed her counsel. The chosen honor her in combat. In her kit, she brings the gear, arms needed for attending the afflicted to the battlefront, to the sound of bells, masks, gloves, goggles, endless work days, enduring her visage so spirit with helmets and stratagems goes on fighting the fierce battles. Enfermera Nancy, con sus armas ardientes, ya un pasillo va y ya por otro arriba, aprisa o con el arte de la ciencia. Aprisa o con el arte de la ciencia brava, distinguida guerrera de flancos y frentes. Valerosa como Diana, al virus abate, nunca retrocede. Si cansada aún de lejos, manda, sus compañeras siguen sus consejos. Quienes eligió la honraran en el combate. En la aljaba lleva sus accesorios, armas, necesarias para atender a los enfermos, al frente de guerra, al sonido de los timbres, mascarillas, guantes, gafas, jornadas largas, resistiendo, su rostro tan vivo, con yelmos y estratagemas, va librando campañas firmes. Thank you.
Thank you, Juan. And Efrain with a listing ship behind him.
Buscando la paz, searching for peace. This is a poem I have entitled Shalom. I search, I walk, I ponder, and I pray. Searching alone in the stillness of time, I persist in searching for the sacred calmness that nurtures my itinerant heart. Alone, but embraced by the love of my friends, I keep on probing, searching. Who am I? In the garden's quietude, my meandering eyes soak up the verdant abundance of life-giving greens. They welcome me, and in their midst I find the solace that satiates my thirst and fosters my understanding of the word. Who am I? The garden speaks to me softly as I hear the enthralling sound of chanting geraniums, clematis, tulips, verbenas, petunias, inviting me to connect with the soil, to open my soul to the quivers of God's lute, to rejoice and be thankful for the gifts I have received. Who am I? I search alone. I walk the quotidian path with the eagerness of diurnal summers. I ponder and I pray. Full of faith, I ask once again, who am I? Who am I? And the garden's pensive foliage and its taciturn filaments of hope whispered to the innermost corner of my soul a sempiternal truth. Beloved one, you are none other than the one whom I forever hold in the palm of my hand. I pray, I march, I contemplate, I persevere my spiritual quest, and I hear the generous murmur of the wind, a word of peace. Shalom, 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 a word, a sound that reverberates in my heart and under the sacred shadow of the grace-filled meta sequoia. Shalom, shalom, shalom. Thank you.
Thank you, Ephraim. That was lovely.
Thank you.
We're going to start a second round, which I think will be shorter because I don't know if we all have poems for the second round, but I know Larry has another one. So Larry, you're on. Larry, you need to unmute, please. It's good exercise in lip reading, but
Yeah.
I'd rather hear
Okay.
your voice.
Okay. It's called Unacceptables. It felt as if a chunk of molten metal popped out of the fireplace in my living room and landed in my gut. It was hard to digest the smoke in this darkened room. Today, my friend Eric set fire to our friendship papers. No letter, no reason. A quick knife embedded in a determined flame, he was gone. Was there something wrong with me? Had I somehow offended him? We had highly regarded one another. Our mere proximity helped keep us together and validated. We had worth, protection, potential. Together we could fight the existential fears of employment, war, sex, friendships, and so on. We enjoyed rallies and parades and carried signs protesting discrimination in government offices. We loved standing with groups around bonfires singing the right things. Women often ask of my burns. With open eyes, their questions were caring and measured, like tea being poured from delicate china held in sure hands. Oh, I know you cared for her. How hurtful that must have been. To many male friends, I say, I lost my friend Eric. With the arrogance of deep canyons, their response is nil. They betray no loss, no understanding. The listener is not a listener, but a time-honored canyon rock. Male listening.
Thank you, sir. Thanks, Larry.
Yeah.
Let's see, after Franca, do you have a haiku or any other short poem to offer us?
I didn't prepare anything, but after you're done with everybody, I'll just go dig up something. I
Okay.
could read one more poem after everybody.
We'll get back to you. You can close us out. Okay, thank you. So I am next with one more poem. This poem was written in a place called Gaiety Hollow, which is in Salem. It's the Lord and Shriver Gardens. Elizabeth Lord and Edith Shriver were the first two women in this country to establish their own landscape architecture firm. and they ran it and other sites for about 40 years. They're long gone now, but the Lord and Shriver Gardens is still available for people to enjoy. And I wrote this poem a couple of years ago in late summer. It starts with a quote from Edith Shriver, one of the landscape architects. She said, "Order is beauty and beauty is order, but too much neatness without careless grace will not produce charm." The empty room looks through windows wavy with age to gardens lush in the ways of careless grace, to beauty of order ragged at its edges. Like the dense explosion of dahlias, riotous in color, interlaced with sprays of phlox and Queen Anne's lace, all wild in their containment, petals quivering at the buzz and touch of honeybees. Like the weather-beaten trellis weighted with grapes that dangle fat and purple from sagging slats. Like the tufts of cobwebbed grass that line the pavered ochre path to a baby angel, frozen, worn, and gray, with its own fistful offering of concrete grapes. Like the two young lovers embracing an ancient oak, their arms straining around the broad and gnarly bole, reaching, trying to meet each other's fingertips. All this I see from that vacant space once home to Lord and Shriver, two women long gone to some angelic faded past, having left this gift of imperfect perfections, beauty and order underwritten in the ways of careless grace. And now late summer starts its turn to fall, and the only certainty is that winter awaits us all, but always the hope of yet one more spring beyond, to be again among the buds in bloom, the grapes in plumping clusters, the orderly intensity of bees. Everything again in careless grace, reaching from the newborn earth like young lovers' fingertips. Thank you for enduring that. And Kelly, you have another one to offer us? Be sure to unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you. As I said, I wrote both these poems in the last few months, and this one, the other one, basically was based on the feeling of fear that prompted me to think about death because of COVID. And this one's called The Shape of Joy. To my daughter. Joy, small three-lettered thing with a nice ring to it. Until you make it bold, twisting and turning wire into 3-dimension, even as it hurts. You shape the letters large as life, J-O-Y, to greet us in the entrance hall. Not like dancing fragrance out ahead of us, but for the first time in history, we see the size and the scope and need for it as equal to the air we breathe. What woods had you been frequenting? What song had you been whistling to come upon such wisdom as fortuitous as this? Hanging decades on the wall, J-O-Y remains steadfast, all except the Y we brush against when passing by. It falls, falls again. I often leave it dangling upside down to pose my doubts of its fragility. You would see it bigger, the bloom on the face of a child, healing balm for the brokenhearted. You wrestled with the wire like a puzzle, and the rest of us someday may fit the parts together. I know when I carry joy, It's as light as a feather. And to see it is harder. The brightness nudging me awake speaks clearest of all, to open my eyes to see it.
Thank you, Kelly.
You're welcome.
Rose, do you have another offering? No? Okay. Juan?
Yeah, I have one.
Okay.
Sings the first golem. From love and death, so was the first fate in an unforgettable garden of Cain and Abel, ancestors, and in turn those of Babel in its odyssey. This golem, only death, will have for company until the end of its days, beyond love, beyond death, waiting for us only an immense horizon, the dust and of life, its faithful memories. All we have is what is lost, silence, the last in the forgetting eternity. So it happens, art builds loneliness. There will not be in humanity a greater challenge than the arduous road of loving and dying till the end of its days and of the future.
Thank you.
The primer golem. You want me to read it in Spanish?
Sure. Sure, go ahead.
Este primer golem. De amor y muerte tal fue la primera suerte en un inolvidable jardín de Caín y Abel, progenitores y a su vez estos de Babel. En su odisea, aquel golem, solo la muerte tendrá por compañera hasta el fin de sus días. Más allá del amor, más allá de la muerte, solo nos espera un inmenso horizonte, el polvo y de la vida sus fieles memorias. Solo es nuestro lo perdido, silencio que perdura en el olvido, eternidad, tal suerte erige el arte soledad. No habrá en el hombre mayor desafío que el largo camino de amar y morir hasta el fin de sus días y el porvenir. Thank you.
Thanks, Juan. Efrain, do you have another one you want to offer?
Yeah, let me read a poem in both in Spanish and English here that I wrote because of the pandemia. ¿Qué hora es? ¿Qué hora es? Mi familia hablaba y mis amigos discutían sobre la pandemia y la incertidumbre. El cielo parecía ennegrecerse, la esperanza cojeaba y las noticias afirmaban por un lado una larga y tremebunda noche. Por el otro lado anunciaban milagros y pociones prodigiosas contra el virus. ¿Qué hora es? Mis vecinos conversaban y algunos se acaloraban sobre el confinamiento. Unos sentíanse prisioneros y refunfuñaban como bestias enjauladas, otros lo tomaban como un retiro espiritual y se sumían en lecturas y reflexiones sobre la vida. Mientras tanto, la ciudad cambiaba y nosotros, perplejos, también. ¿Qué hora es? Es la hora del abrazo etéreo, del codazo fraterno y de la cosecha de la vital palabra, de los versos que nutren nuestros espíritus. ¿Qué hora es? Es la sacra hora de la curación de la Pachamama y de nuestras magulladas vidas por el miedo, trastocadas por esclavizantes rutinas. ¿Qué hora es? Now the version in English. What time is it? What time is it? My family would chat and my friends would argue about the pandemia and the uncertainty. The sky seemed to blacken. Hope limped, and the news spoke on the one hand of a lone and terrifying night, on the other hand, announcing miracles and prodigious potions against the virus. What time is it? My neighbors talk, and some would become enraged about the confinement. Some felt prisoners, and they grumbled like caged beasts. Others took it as a spiritual retreat and were immersed in readings and reflections about life. Meanwhile, the city changed, and we too were perplexed. What time is it? It is the hour of the ethereal embrace, the fraternal elbowing, and the harvesting of the vital word, and the poems that nourish our spirits. What time is it? It is the sacred healing hour of Mother Earth and of our lives bruised by fear, disturbed by enslaving routines. What time is it? Thank you.
Thank you, Efraín.
You're welcome.
And I think, Franca, you're going to close us out with one more poem, please.
Yes, I would be delighted to. And this is a poem based on a a personal experience as a child. We went to visit my grandmother in Italy, and we stayed there for quite a long time. And so this is a memory with my brother and I. The Magic Button Jar. On the 7th floor of my nonna's building in Rome, Italy, in the kitchen dining family room, in a home with no central heating, we close the door. The door snake blocks the icy stream that scrabbles to enter like a desperate cat. There's a kitchen nook, a marble-topped table, and a working-class lacquered hutch. By the window sits my nonna Singer manual sewing machine. It made most of our clothes. Everyone dresses sharply. Once there was a pot-bellied stove, now a stand-alone electric heater. This room is where we receive visitors for afternoon tea. It is also our playroom. Our toys are in Nonna's magic button jar. Our little fingers rummage through the generations of buttons, of different shapes, color, textures, sizes, each with a family story we are too young to know. In our fingers, the buttons are animated. We talk to them. We give them personalities. We set them up for conflict and family dramas. Like flesh and blood creatures, we control their laughter or howls of pain. Adventurers with wild stories of impossible dare-do. We give them voices, we give them names, we give them family alliances. When Nonna says it's time to prepare dinner, our little drama is swept away into the jar, placed at the bottom of the old hutch. In the dark, the buttons listen to our contented breathing as my brother and I, like tired puppies after a romp in the grass, lie curled up for warmth in our bed. Thank you.
Sweet. A nice one to go out on. Nice, beautiful, positive last image. So that's it, folks, from the Silverton Poetry Association, SPA. We hope you took some joy in our readings today. Thank you again to Tom Hogan and to the Milwaukie Poetry Series for inviting our association here. And until next time, somewhere, somewhen, be well, stay well, and bye-bye.
Thanks, you guys, for doing this.
Thank you.